Hello everyone, this is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is my first live call-in, and so I'm not sure how everything is going to go. So it's really a test call-in, and right now I have a wonderful Lisa here who is going to help me out to see whether any of the equipment works, because I set this up twice, and both times right before, like an hour or two before, I went, this doesn't work. So oh my gosh, Lisa, yes, you can see and hear me. That's fantastic. That's a start. I never knew this would be so difficult to set up. I had to buy equipment, a special thing called, what is it called? Zoom Pod Track P4 to make a studio. And then I had to get new headphones. And then my microphone wouldn't work, so I got connectors. And then the connectors didn't work properly. So I had to buy a new microphone, which is here. And I had to have my son come over quite a few times because I called him up and said, please come and save my butt. So this is I'm glad you can see and hear me, Lisa. I'm actually shocked because I really had no idea what I'm doing. And I actually had to take pictures of the podcast machine just so I'd have a clue how to set it up in the future if it actually worked. But I really wanted to try this because it's kind of a neat concept. I can hear your voices and I can actually talk to you, because I love having the hangouts with everybody in them. But this is for the level 5 of Patreon, and it's just cool. Maybe I'm going to get to hear you and actually have a conversation. So I put a message out to Patreon just like an hour and a half ago. So I didn't expect I was going to get a great response, but I just really wanted to see if the equipment worked. So I'm so excited that Lisa showed up and is going to be my guinea pig. Thank you, Lisa. And I want to point out, by the way, my lovely background here. This is my home. This is actually my home 8 years ago when I took the picture. And I don't think it looks as good today, but you know, it looks really perfect and clean because it's from 8 years ago. And I think, see? Problems already. Wait, crap. Well, that was interesting. Okay, so hold on. This is going to be fun. Okay, hold on a second. So what happened was the mic didn't work this afternoon, so my son and I went down to the local music store where they have microphones, and the guy told me that for a reasonable price, okay, it cost me like $80, but much better than the higher prices. Okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. All right, so it's falling over. That's my problem. So he told me, he said, this is a really good, decent mic for, you know, if you don't want a $500 professional mic. And this is really good, but he said the stand sucks. Boy, was he not kidding. I should have bought the stand. I have to tape the sucker down. I thought I had taped it down. So now I'm going to retape it down. Okay. So teeth marks. Oh, Lisa's so smart. So Lisa says here, that could be evidence, your teeth marks on that tape. You know, I have scissors, but I have a granddaughter, and I use the scissors for something. I don't know where the hell the scissors went to. Okay, so now I've re-glued the mic. All right, that was fun. All right. I'm glad you think so. Lisa says you're so much fun. I try. You know, one of the advantages of being older, you know, I'm 66 now, and you know, I've raised my family. I've had a very good career, and I continue to have a very good career. But you know, I just decide I'd rather have fun than be all worried about everything. You know, so it's cool. So anyway, all right. Lisa says, and DNA. Yeah, because I like licked that. I haven't killed anybody, Lisa. I really haven't. But I Okay, now I'm hot. All right, okay, Lisa, my little guinea pig. If anybody else finally sees one, I sent this message out to Patreon, and I'm hoping somebody else does see it, so they'll come in. But I really did just send it like really recently, and I'm a person that checks their email like every 5 minutes of my life. But a lot of people actually have lives outside of like YouTube, and they're like, I was having fun and I didn't see that for 3 hours. I'm sorry, I didn't come. But next time, if this works, you'll get a proper message many days before, and you'll know when it's going to happen. But I'm glad Lisa's here to check this out. Okay, so now you can see. Hold on a second. I bit my tongue. I'm having fun with just Lisa here. I'm having a great time. Lisa says, I'm in no hurry. I'll do as you like. Oh, I love you, Lisa. You're awesome. Okay. All right. I'll calm down now that I have a microphone that I've restuck to the table. By the way, let me just show you what this looks like. Okay, let me pull up my picture here. I just took this picture because I thought, if you realize what this crap looks like. See all that crap? Yeah. That's the studio and a whole bunch of equipment I don't need, which I'm going to try to send back to Amazon, because now I've hooked things up. I've hooked new things up. Now things go back to Amazon. And I'm okay with that, because last night when I sent for my new microphone, they sent me a message that said, your microphone has been delivered. And I'm looking at the picture going, it's 10:30 at night, mind you. And I'm like, where the heck is it? Because that's not my house. And it looked like some kind of, one of these, it was a metal building with lines on it, just like industrial. Industrial is the word I'm looking for. Industrial building, and there's this really crappy wall built with some really shabby, bricks and cement. And my stuff's sitting there. I'm like, where is that? So I actually jumped in my car and drove down the road, and I'm like, oh, that the landscaping company. So I drove in their parking lot, hoped I didn't get shot. And there was my little package sitting there in front of not even a real door. So I'm like, dude, it's on the other side of the road. Our house actually has the number on it. So I wasn't happy. But anyway, all right. So Lisa says, it's exciting having a call-in feature. Yeah, I think so too. And I've never tried it. So let me tell you, I am a virgin for this. At 66, I got to be a virgin for something. So anyway, okay, Lisa, are you ready? Oh, my little guinea pig. Lisa's wonderful, so just want to let you know. Okay, so Lisa, do you know the phone number? Did you see the phone number I sent over? If you didn't, I can repost it. Oh, let me tell you what happened about the phone number. So the phone number is my agency number, and I didn't go through some Skypey thing. So this is my agency number, and I always have it on send all my calls to message. And the reason I do that is because I do have stalkers and really weird people that call. So I always have them. I don't answer my agency phone. I wait for the message to go through, I listen to it, and then I determine whether I should call back. And I forgot it was on. And I'm like, oh my God, anybody who calls is going to go straight to the message. So I realized that, thank God. Oh, okay. So Lisa forgot the number. So, okay, I'm going to repost it for you, Lisa. And so thank God I took that off, because that was something else I was going to screw up. Just to let you know, anybody who thinks this is easy is out of your damn mind. Doing YouTube, having any kind of podcast is way harder than you think it is. People just don't usually let you know because they want to look real professional. Not me. Okay, so now that's my phone number, Lisa. Okay, so I'm going to see if Lisa can actually call in. I've got a question for Lisa. Oh my God, it's working. Hello, Lisa, are you there?
Yeah, it's me. Hi, Pat.
Oh my God, it's really you. Yes. It worked. Oh my God, it worked. You don't know how amazing this is for me because
Me too.
I can hear your voice. Oh, it's so
I
wonderful.
love it.
Wait a minute. I thought you were in Central Zone, but
Oh
you're not.
no, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Connecticut, so it's same time zone.
Oh, okay. I thought you had asked a question about that, like, about the timing thing. But the only thing about the timing was for the UK, because when I do the Hangouts, I do the Thursday Hangouts for UK, right? I do them at 4 in the afternoon so that it's 5 hours later and they can at least be awake at 9 p.m., you know. So when the time change came up, it's like, oh, they can come in at 8 p.m. because it's only 4 hours. So last Sunday when I did the show, I like, okay, it's a 3 p.m. show, but you can come in at 7, because that is confusing, because I think the rest of the world's going, why do you do daylight savings time? It's stupid. What do you think? Is it stupid?
To think, I've gone back and forth in my mind on this issue. I think it does have its pros, because I don't like the idea of people going to work when it's dark and then they come out and it's dark. It might be one of those PETA things,
Oh my God. Just for you guys who don't know, because I didn't. So Lisa taught me something new. She said, well, that's PETA. And I'm thinking, did you mean that's a pity? Because it was a pity that I couldn't get all this crap together. And she goes, no, PETA, pain in the ass. I'm like, oh, I've never heard that. That's the first time I've ever heard that. So
isn't that interesting?
I guess I live in a cave. But yeah.
I want to let you know that I don't have my Bluetooth in.
Okay.
So I'm only hearing you through my phone on speaker, and as I'm looking at my laptop screen, there's a lag.
Really?
So that might be a security/privacy feature on your end.
What?
Because if I were to start swearing or
no, we don't have that. Okay,
I'm just wondering why there's
lag?
now you just raised your eyebrows and now you're frowning, shaking your head no. So there's a lag.
Really?
I hear your voice just fine.
Oh, you know what it may be? Yeah, you might be right, because I don't know whether somebody sees this later, it looks all normal. But when I used to do TV, one of the reasons I told them to not put me on the monitor, because they have a monitor. Like, you sit in the chair like this, right? I look a lot better because I got hair and makeup, which this is not happening here. Okay, so when I did 15 years worth of television, right? I would go into the studio and they do my hair, my makeup. I look so pretty. And then I go sit in front of the camera, and there was the monitor in front of me. And I always said, turn the monitor off. I never had the monitor on, because there is that lag time and you get distracted by the monitor. So yes. I prefer just to hear than to see. And then it was really weird. So I'm like, get rid of the monitor, just cancel it. And I never had the monitor on. So what I was actually looking at, it's a funny story. So normally I look at just the monitor, right? Which is black, because I told them to turn it off, right? So I'm looking at a black screen. I don't actually see anything. So the host would be talking, right? And one time, I don't know what show I was on, but I'm like, well, I think that's true, David. And he goes, I'm not David. I'm like, oh, because I couldn't see him, So I thought I was talking to somebody else. And I was like,
I'm not sure if, like I said, I'm not sure if that's built in, a feature. Yeah. But if I were to, like I said...
Okay, say a bad word, Lisa.
Like, you want me to? I will.
Yes. Okay, say the S word, because that's not too bad.
Okay, I don't give a shit.
Okay, because they'll demonetize me anyway. They love to demonetize me, so I'm like...
Well, I only did it with permission.
You did, but they'll still demonetize me.
I was going to use the F word, but you said use the S word.
Yeah, the F word is more like lethal.
Bad,
I think.
more bad.
Yeah, more bad. So we'll have to see what happens. I'm really curious, because this is like such a new thing for me. I've done a lot of radio in my life.
Yeah,
and
I'm trying to time it. I'm trying to see what the delay is. Isn't the standard 7 seconds?
I have not a clue. You think I pay
Okay.
attention to these things? No. I get that they throw me in the chair when I was doing TV, and I just do TV. You know what I mean? Like, that's their
You just did
problem.
as you were told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't worry about it. I do know they have that so they can get rid of people who are doing naughty things, saying
Yeah.
something inappropriate. But a lot of times things happen anyway. Like one time I was on Joe Behar, and I bought a new phone, and I didn't know that the new phone, I thought I turned it off, but I hadn't. You know, I was really good. Always turn the phone off before I start the show, right? And I would usually turn the phone off, and I'd also like kill it completely, so like a double thing. But
Yes.
I bought this new phone, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna turn it off. So we're doing Joe Behar's show, and all of a sudden my phone starts ringing during the show, and it's like the thing you never want to have happen when you're on a show. And she goes, Pat, is that your phone ringing? And I'm like, yeah, I think law enforcement is calling me to find out what I think. What am I gonna do, you know? So that was kind of horrible. But they didn't like knock me off or anything because it wasn't, you know, crude.
Okay, here's the next question. I have another question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Our conversation, once this live call-in is over, when people look at this video, they will hear me and hear you?
Yes.
How are you going to... Yes, okay.
Yes, that's why I did say, because originally I was like, how am I going to do this? Yeah, because I think a lot of people do enjoy a conversation. So yes,
Absolutely.
right. And you know, as I go on with this, we get people find out that I'm actually here. And oh, Lisa! Oh, look at this, Lisa. The other Lisa's here. This is Lisa Knight. Hi, Lisa.
Oh, Lisa.
The other
Hi,
Lisa. Lisa and Lisa. This is fun. Just tuned in. I'm glad you
There's
found.
a lot of Lisas.
Yeah, you are my two favorite Lisas. Actually, are my only Lisas. But okay,
So Lisa can hear me.
yes, Lisa,
Oh,
I
my
can hear you,
goodness.
and Pat. See, oh, it's working. I'm so excited. You don't know. I mean,
Oh, isn't it wild?
yeah, I have. I mean, this has been like the most hellacious thing trying to set this up. You can't imagine how horrible it has been, and I felt so bad because I kept canceling. I'm like, oh, never mind, don't show up because I have to
Can you
cancel.
like this? Can you imagine all of the additional things you're going to be able to do with this?
Yeah.
See, I'm already thinking. You know, if you want to interview people,
I could.
and-
Yeah.
yeah, you can. I mean, anything you could do with a phone,
Yeah.
you can do.
That's
That's
true.
wonderful.
I haven't really thought about the future. You know, the cool thing I just thought would be fun to actually talk to the people, because when I changed from, remember I had it was open. The chat room was open to everyone, and then we're getting the bots and the haters and the trolls and all that stuff, and it just really annoyed me. And yes, I could keep it open, and I could have super chats, and people could give me money, and you know that's really sweet. But you know, I just never liked that atmosphere. You know what I mean? Where I'm fighting with a whole bunch of crap that's coming in,
Right.
crazy people.
Yes.
Yeah, and since I switched over to Patreon only for the live part, it has been such a. Oh my God, Annie's here too! Yay! Hi, Annie! Yay! Okay, we're. It's actually working. I could not see the comments on my phone, so I'm on my computer now. Awesome. You know, now we got. I put this out so late. I'm surprised anybody showed up. So thank you guys. But yeah, so when I went to Patreon only in the chat room, I liked it so much. I mean, I've lost money, but I don't care because I have you guys, and it's a pleasure as opposed to being a pain in the. What is that, Peter? A pain in the ass. Wait a minute. We already said ass, so we're already demonetized.
Demonetized.
You
Right.
didn't have to say the S word. But it's such a pleasure because I have a chat room full of wonderful people. You know, people I like and who are nice and who can communicate with each other, and not a bunch of weirdos coming in and just causing trouble. And it's like, you know, that's important to me to have a good community. So it's awesome. So yeah, so I'm really happy about that. So this is cool. So this is actually
Well,
working.
believe me, we're very happy about it too. Very much so.
Oh, how
We
cool.
would not be giving you our time and curiosity and desire to learn and money if we weren't.
Well,
I can't imagine someone, you know, paying money to just not attend or,
Well,
you know, that's
Actually,
don't
people
do
do. I know one of the
that.
things
They
I wanted
do?
to do, yeah, one of the things I wanted to do was that I really struggled over this because I'm highly demonetized. I mean, I originally thought I was just going to do my shows and the advertising would kick in, right? But they demonetized me so heavily that it's like, yeah, you don't get much from advertising. So I went to Patreon, but the one thing I didn't want to do with Patreon was there's some things where you just say, hey, just give me money, but it doesn't give you anything more than everybody else who's coming around. And I like, that's kind of crappy. So I just finally decided on this 5-tier thing because I wanted to give something back for people who are willing to support the channel. So, I mean, because of my educational stance, I'll never make a fortune. I know that, and it's okay, just as long as I can keep the channel going with enough support that it's doable. So I'm thrilled that you guys are here. Okay, Lisa, I have to ask you my question now. Now I know
Okay.
you could ask me a question, but I want to ask you a question. So, what was the first thing that got you interested in profiling, or profilers, or criminal profilers? What was the first thing in your life that you ran into that said, "Oh, this is interesting, criminal profiling"? What was it?
I'm still here, and I'm going to give you my honest answer.
Okay, you can. Honesty is
Um,
great here.
okay,
It wasn't me. No, what?
way back.
Okay.
It must have been about, well, first of all, I do think there's a partial genetic component in this, the interest in this stuff.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
I must have been around between 10 and 15, those ages.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
You're
My-
just
my
19
mother-
now, right?
I'll give you my real age. I just turned 59. Just turned 59.
Such
on
a
the 12th.
youngster.
Yeah, I don't mind people knowing my age, my weight, and all that stuff. I don't have the energy to care.
I just got to stop here. Lisa, I am so with you. That's what people think, when I say, I'm 66 and I gained 40 pounds during the stupid coronavirus crap. They're like, oh, Pat, don't feel bad. I'm like, no, I'm just telling it like it is. I'm okay with it. It's just, when you get older, you can just, kind of live life. You know what I mean? So I'm with you on that, Lisa. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a slight off topic for a second. The reason that I became so interested, in addition to what I'm going to tell you, is the fact that, like I said, there's this little bit of a genetic thing, I think, because
Really?
my grandmother, my mother, and one of my children, I have 2 daughters, one of my children also is interested. Not as deep as me, but she's
Really?
definitely interested.
Huh.
Going back to the story, between ages like 10 and 15, like 12, whatever, there was a drugstore in town. Since I'm 59, you can like get an
People's?
idea. You can get an idea.
What
of
drugstore
the
was
time.
it?
In Connecticut, it was called Spanners.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
I remember People's Drugstore, which I think has been out of function for gosh knows how long.
Yeah.
Wow.
To find those places, they're kind of the mom and pops of pharmacy / convenience items. I don't think they even sell those, what is it, magazines about detectives and
True Detective and that crap?
Okay,
Yeah, True Detective's a
Yeah.
biggie. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so this Spanners is a pharmacy / magazines,
Right.
cigarettes, all of that stuff. My
Oh,
mom,
when life used to be fun.
when life used to be fun, right?
Yeah.
Life used to be fun in a different way.
Okay.
So how could it not be when we have your channel? And I'm not just saying
Oh,
that.
aren't you nice?
Oh, I'm thrilled.
Let me smoke a cigarette.
I'm thrilled. That's why when it came up on my recommendations, it said Pat Brown criminal profiling. I had to look at it again. I said, "Oh my goodness, I know who that is. I saw you on TV so many times. I saw you
Oh my God.
giving interviews and being on, and they do not give guests a lot of time on TV. So I
Teeny
definitely,
weeny.
I get that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm involved in that industry, but I can see with my own eyes.
This is so much better. I can tell you,
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy this so much
Definitely.
more because when you do television, you have to get you get to the studio, then you get your hair, you get your makeup, you get in the chair. 5 hours worth of work, and then they let you say something for 1.5 minutes. You know? Here I do much less hair and makeup, and I can talk for 2 hours and make people turn it off. But that's great. So at 15, you were you looking at True Detective?
Right. So, at that time, my mother was a heavy smoker. Everybody smoked in those days, early 70s, So she would say, go get me 2 packs of cigarettes and the True Detective magazine. Now, mind you, I was like an early teen, and I was quite naive. I was 13 and still playing with Barbie dolls.
We all were.
13, yeah. Well, I actually still have Barbie dolls. I'm a doll collector, but
I have my granddaughter, so yes, I have a lot of Barbie dolls rolling around my house. Yeah.
So I'd go in and I'd scan. Oh, this is bringing back certain memories. I would scan the shelves and read these titles like "He bound her, he gagged her. It was the thrill of his life," and
wow.
Just, for a young child or female, it was a little unsettling, and I
think.
But there was something I could always love to read. So there was something in me that was like, what is this stuff about? And
you were curious.
Drawn to it. I was so curious, so drawn to it. And my mother and I would just share the magazines, and they had...
Your mother let you buy the magazine, which is really cool, because, some mothers would have bought that and hid it, but,
I was actually buying them for her.
Right, wow.
And then I started reading them.
And that started it?
Yes. You know what I was doing just then? I'm watching to see that delay. There's about 7 to 10 seconds, Pat.
Yeah. We'll worry about it. I'm going to look at when it's done. I'm curious of how it's going to turn out, whether we're going to see any delays. It may be a delay on your end, because I think you have to. Let me see if I understand this. Usually I forgot about this issue. Usually when you're phoning in, they always tell you to turn off whatever you're watch, but you're on my chat thing, so I'm not sure how that works. So I may have to Google that, but
okay.
Yeah. So I think the problem is you're looking at me and it is delayed, but the chat room is probably not delayed. So
great.
Yeah. So it's an interesting problem between the chat room and but us talking together. So yeah, so that's kind of like, I have to see how it works. I don't know. I'm a novice at this. I'm playing around with it.
Well, I hope that you're learning a lot, and that we'll do this a lot in the future.
I hope so. I had no idea whether I would like this or whether it would be fun. I'm like, like my son asked me, he says, so how's this going to work, Ma? And I'm like, I have no clue. I'm going to wing it, and if everybody's having fun and I'm having fun, then we're good. Hold on a second. Wait a minute, there's a cough thing. I forgot what the cough thing is. Oh crap. There's a little buttons here, and you can silence. Wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm trying to figure out where I'm talking. Wait a minute, this is headphones. This goes in here. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, let's see if this works. Tell me if you can hear me cough. Did you hear me cough?
No, I did not.
Oh, it worked. There's a little button you push when you want to cough.
When you were asking me if I heard you cough, I actually saw you cough.
But you didn't hear me.
So, right, but I did not hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another thing I'm learning, because they got little buttons, And when you're doing a professional studio, it's a whole different thing.
So you did all that. You're bringing all of that experience to this as well.
I've been in professional studios where they told me if I'm going to cough, just hit that little thing. But
oh my goodness,
this is my own studio, and I don't know what I'm doing. I've got microphones everywhere. I got so many pieces of wires everywhere. This is
so much fun.
This is great.
Annie said it's not delayed here, so that's
good. Oh, that's really nice what Annie said. Oh, those are Pat's painting in the background, aren't they great? Thank you very much, Annie.
Yeah.
Yes, those are my paintings. Yeah, those actually did. A funny story about that. These are, you can't really see them that clearly, but they're charcoals of eggs and cartons. And I was interpreting at the time, sign language interpreting for the college, right? So I went in, and there was this an art class, and so my student was there, and they would start out and they go, okay, start, drawing. And I'm like, so I signed that, start drawing. And then I sat there. Well, they're drawing because I got nothing to do, right? And the instructor looked at me and said, why don't you just go get some charcoals? And then, we'll set you up with an easel and you can at least do something while you're sitting around waiting for for the next time I say anything. And I'm like, okay. And so I set up the easel and then I started drawing and I'm like, oh, this is fun. So I got a free art class. That was cool. So I've actually gone back to art after 40 years and I'm actually enjoying painting and, until the coronavirus came and then it screwed everything. But so thank you very much, Annie, for mentioning that. That's so sweet. So, so Lisa, Pat's painting so many talents. Let me tell you about talents, just to interject. You'd be surprised how many people are talented. They really are. I've been in art classes, sign language classes. I've taught things. I play pickleball, table tennis, Scrabble. All the things that I've done in my life. I found most people have more talent than they think. The problem is they never do it. You don't try it because you're like, oh, I don't know how to do that. But you go in and you're like so surprised. They're like, ha, no. And you surprise yourself. And so I went in and took an acrylic class and I never thought I could paint. And lo and behold, I have some really nice paintings now, and I'm really shocked. And I don't think it's because I'm a great artist or anything. Now, I'm not going to be hanging in a museum. But the fact that the teacher taught us, she taught us things to do. And when you learn techniques and skills, you can actually do things. So it's mostly a matter of, a lot of times we just don't know how to do it. I took a knitting class. I've never knit in my life. I took that like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I thought I couldn't knit. I'm like, I'm not a sewer. I never sewed. I always hated sewing. Mm-hmm. But I went to this knitting class for the kicks of it. I made myself a scarf. It's real pretty. so the fact that you can learn to do it. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually very pleasant, So I just think that people ought to try more things. It doesn't matter if you're great at it, just that you have fun doing it. And you might find out you're not as bad as you think. So.
Well, the self-satisfaction is the most important thing.
Yeah, who cares if anybody likes your crap?
I don't believe that artists are just born with special talents. You can definitely learn. Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is one
kinds of things I'm learning.
This is profiling. This is what I've had the argument about profiling for years. That it gets me so annoyed that the FBI profilers came out. The few of them that were out there. Writing books and making it sound like they were the gods of profiling. Like they could do something that nobody else could do. They knew how to get into the mind of the killer and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If you're going to be profiling, it should be a skill. You have to have logic. Let's face it. Basic logic is really kind of useful. But once you've got past the basic logic point, you should be able to analyze evidence, and you should be able to teach others how to analyze evidence. It shouldn't be some kind of, some kind of psychic weirdo stuff, you know what I mean? Or that you're such a, like, after all the people in the nation, you're the only people that can do this? It's like we have how many doctors do we have in a country? How many lawyers do we have? How many teachers do we have? But we can only have 9 profilers, I mean, really? It makes no sense. So I wanted to get people to understand that profiling is a skill. Yes, you do need some basic abilities because there are people who have no logic and they suck at profiling. There are some people who cannot hold a note. You know what I mean? They're off key. They suck at singing. There's some things you just can't do. It's like, it's just not me. You know what I mean? We'll just throw that one out and I'll do something else. But generally speaking, if you have certain abilities, you should be able to then gain skills and do those things. And profiling is no different. I don't want to be the only profiler in the country. I want there to be hundreds of profilers working with police departments or detectives who can profile, or professional juries like I want with profiling skills. I don't want to be the one. It's kind of stupid, So, I believe everybody can learn. So let me finish this up. I just want to ask you. Yes. So, 15 years old, you saw True Detective, you read that, and that's what got you into kind of the crime thing?
Oh, yes, from a
Ah,
very, very young age. I was
wow.
always reading about true crime, and they didn't have a lot of the realistic, well, quote unquote, realistic style of procedural investigative shows on TV, because
Right.
that's really all we had was TV. And you go to the library.
Oh my God,
Um,
you remember the thing called a library?
yeah, yeah,
Ah,
I do.
yeah.
Oh gosh, I still go sometime, but not a lot. I prefer to go to like we have some used bookstores around here. I I want to keep a book. I like books. I like to hold them. I like
Ah,
to see them on my shelf. I like to make journals out of them. So I
wow.
like books in general. I didn't like the idea that I have to return a book.
Interesting.
I wanted it to be mine,
Right.
so I don't mind going to Goodwill and antique shops. And there's one called Books by the Falls in a little town near here.
Oh,
They
cool.
sell used books, some rare, some that are a dollar. So that kind, I like books a lot.
That's awesome.
So I'm in the process of building my crime library. I've gotten a lot of the
Wow.
titles, a lot of the titles that you've recommended. I have all of yours except one. Cleopatra's on its way.
Oh,
I think
awesome.
I'm,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I think I'm looking for How to Save Your Daughter's Life. I
You
think I'm
can't.
looking for that one.
Well,
There's
you're,
one of them.
don't look too hard because the publishing industry today sucks. And so what happens is they don't print it anymore, and they'll only go to audio or to Kindle. Now, if for some reason How to Save Your Daughter's Life went to audio only with some lady who's I can't stand her voice. I did audio for Killing for Sport and The Profiler. I think I did those two books. But for some reason, when they put out the How to Save Your Daughter's Life, they decided to bring in some lady with some. She just doesn't sound like me, and it bugs me. So it's audio only, and it really pisses me off because I like it to be the other. So all I can ever recommend is that you go to eBay and try to see if you can get a
Right,
used copy
right.
because I can't get the rights back because this is what's happened. It used to be when they printed a book, when it went out of print, because let's face it, at some point usually things go out of print unless it's that exciting, and it's sold like millions. So your book goes out of print, but when it went out of print, you got your rights back. So if these books had gone out of print, I would have taken How to Save Your Daughter's Life, and I would have put it. I would have put it. Well, I could put it out on Kindle, and I could put it out on what's that called? I haven't done it yet, but Amazon could print on demand, so that if you didn't want Kindle, you could just have a print on demand book, and then I could actually get it out to people for a reasonable price. But I can't get the rights back because that's the way they do it. And so now
Right.
that it can be on Kindle for eternity and costs them no money, they don't give the rights back to the authors anymore. So once we sell the book, we're screwed. And that's why from now on, I'm going totally 100% self-publishing. Unless,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, if they're
Absolutely.
going to hand me if they're going to hand me $200,000, in advance, I'll take that back. But if they're going to offer me something like, I'll give you $5,000 advance, I'm going to say like no, because I want to be able to control the rights on my book.
Well, listen to this. Speaking of your books and pricing and rights and things, I am getting Cleopatra from a Goodwill.
Okay,
I forget where it is for $1.90.
that's okay
You
with
know.
me.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just hate that, but
No,
I'm
no, no,
so
no.
thrilled
Understand,
to get it.
understand this. I'm never going to get another penny off that book. Okay. So if you went and bought it, I probably would never see the money. So don't worry about it. Get it as cheap as you can get it because I'd rather have you read the book than think I'm gonna, Pat Brown will get something out of this. No, I'm not. I'll never make the advance. The advance on that book was not good, but the
Yes,
publicity was terrible as well. So I have a limit to how much I'm ever going to ever see. I'll never see another penny on that book. So buy it from Goodwill. I'm okay with that. So do that, because
great.
I feel strongly about the book itself. I love my book on Cleopatra, and I want to do a whole series here on YouTube on Cleopatra. So that's my hope.
Oh,
So.
that sounds marvelous.
Yeah, because again, it's like, oh, that's so nice. And this is Annie has a. Annie says this is my favorite book. Oh my God, yes. And Annie has been one of my best supporters of the Cleopatra book, and I almost had a TV series that was going to do the whole book, and then the uprising happened in Egypt. I was there actually for that. No, I wasn't there for that. I left. I think it was one day before or 2 days before. And so what had happened, I was in Cairo, and I still remember this. I had a hotel on Tahrir, the square there in the middle of the city, and I was eating an ice cream, and I was walking across perfectly peacefully, and I was like, oh, this is so nice. And then I flew home, and then the next day I was in the CNN green room, and the television suddenly came up, news, protests in Tahrir Square break out. I'm like, what? That's where I just was. And then all that went to hell in Egypt. All the craziness happened. And a lot of people couldn't get out of Egypt at that point. They were stuck there. And if I'd been there, I would have probably been there for another month or 2 or 3. I was kind of sad I was out because I thought it would be kind of exciting. But on the other hand, it's probably safer that I wasn't there. But that was what killed my Cleopatra series, because when that broke out, the insurance companies refused to cover the television people going to Egypt, so they dumped the series on my book. So, yeah, that's the way things go. That's very upsetting.
Pat, I would like to slide over to one of the cases that we've discussed. It's, I guess, I don't think it's a cold case yet. It's an active investigation.
Okay.
I'm talking about the Summer Wells case.
Correct.
Now, when you did that case, I suggested a theory, and you shot it down.
Oh, not me.
I know you now, and I know that wasn't a personal thing, but you shot it down.
Okay.
And I want to discuss it for a minute.
Sure.
Well,
okay.
I shouldn't say shot it down. Let me say it nicer, because I don't feel bad about it.
Okay.
I'm
glad you have the attitude. Oh, hold on one second.
I enjoyed debate, so that's not a problem. I should just say you said that you thought that it probably no. Okay.
Okay. So what was the theory?
The theory is that they lived isolated up on a hill near the woods.
That is correct.
Okay. This little girl is what, 5, 6, 7?
Correct.
I said that she could have wandered into the forest.
Correct.
And who knows, gotten attacked by an animal, a person, got hurt, got injured in exploring.
Correct.
Hurt herself and couldn't move around and whatever. Now, I thought to myself, our children are grown, but when my little one, our youngest girl was little, we have woods in the back, and she used to, at age 5, she would go back there.
Right.
I told her, don't do it.
Right.
Not because I thought she'd be taken, especially, I thought she was going to get hurt or lost. She was only 5.
Right.
So I thought to myself, kids do that.
Correct.
Kids do go off exploring.
I agree with that, actually.
Okay, so let's talk about the Summer Wells case now. Why did you feel... Now, I have a thing about let me think. Possible versus probable.
Very good.
Trading away stuff to come down to the common denominator of, those things could have happened.
Right.
But what didn't, why not? Why are we saying no to those others?
Okay, I think it's really excellently so. And I like your probable versus possible, or possible versus probable. That is actually a very good way of investigating, because you don't want to completely knock something out, right? Because if you do that, then you've killed an investigative avenue that is reasonable, as long as it's not so improbable that it probably isn't true. Because, aliens came and took her. Okay, well, that's not really probable. It's not even probably possible. So let's, get that out of there.
Yeah.
But, okay, she could have wandered off. I never had an issue with that. The problem I had was not with her wandering off. It's with what Candace said, and Grandis, that's the grandmother they call Grandis. I had problems with their statements that didn't seem right to me. Now, I never believed for a minute that Summer Wells was dead in the vehicle. I mean, I always thought that was ridiculous. It seemed like everything was fine until they got home. Okay? Everybody was chipper and cheerful. Oh, cute. I think they loved Summer. I don't question that they loved Summer, both of them. Here's my problem. The claim that Candace makes, that they were like putting in little plants and stuff, and then she went into the house. And Candace makes a big deal of how she walked her over to the house, and then she told the boys to watch her, right? And then Summer goes into the house, and within minutes, Summer is, as she put it, what was the statement she said? I'm trying to remember now. She was gone from the basement. Okay. I have this problem. First of all, Candace is not exactly an overprotective mother, shall we say, okay? Due to her proclivity for doing certain probably not so healthy medications, shall we say drugs, and some of her lifestyle, she was not an overly protective mother. And I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong, okay? Because I think we're kind of like today, we're like, these tiger moms that circle and circle and circle, when back in our day, I know that I left the house, and the joke is, if you understand what it means when the lights go off, if you know what that means, then we know how old you are, because when the lights went off, you go, oh, I have to be home for dinner, Meanwhile, you were running all over town in the woods. I mean, I used to run around woods, and I don't know where the heck I was at. We didn't have cell phones, so the idea was your mother would say, come home for dinner. And she had no idea where we went for 5 or 6 hours. That was the way things were. And they kind of just assumed you'd show up, So I don't have a problem with her not being an overprotective mother. I don't. Because maybe that's just the way they live out in the country, right? So that her daughter would run about, but she said her daughter would never do that. That bothers me. Then she said she walked her daughter from Grandis's little trailer thing to the house. You can see the damn house in front of you. I mean, it's like 3 steps. I mean, it's not far away. It's not like you needed to walk her. So I can't believe for a minute she didn't just say, go in the house. Because the child is not that young. You know what I mean? It's not a 2-year-old. This is a kid who's, running around, doing stuff, playing with her brothers, playing outside. It makes no sense that she had to walk her to the house and tell the brothers to watch her, right? Like they were going to, which they weren't, because they were just doing their video games or whatever. And if a kid walks into the house, she doesn't have to tell anybody to watch her. It's ridiculous. Then she goes downstairs, supposedly, and within minutes, she's gone. Now, the problem here is that she's either gone because she got into some kind of drugs into the house, and then she's gone because she's literally dead. That kind of gone. But the fact that, this is what bothered me, when Summer went downstairs, and the mother, Candace says, I went downstairs, and she immediately panics when she sees, supposedly she arrives downstairs in that horrible basement, which is pretty bad, by the way. But anyway, this dark little basement that no child should live in. But anyway, that's where she lived. So she goes down there, and she doesn't see her child in that room. Now, if I don't see my child, my 5-year-old child in the room, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to go, oh, did she go outside? And I'm going to go outside and look for her. She said the minute she came down there, and Summer wasn't there, she knew she was gone. I'm like, why? Why would you think that? That makes no sense. Because she should have just gone outside and played on the swing, or went around back to Grandis's house, or whoever, whatever. But that she's gone. The minute you see she's not in the basement, makes no sense when she has access to the outside. So it's Candace's statements that make me think something else went wrong, and she's trying to cover that up. Now, I don't know what that wrong was, whether she got into drugs or I don't even know. But it just doesn't make sense to me the way she says that. So I find it hard to believe that if Summer had just gone out and gotten lost, I think she would have said, Summer wasn't down in the basement, and then,
Yeah.
I was we were doing planting flowers. I told Summer said she wanted to go in the house. I went, all right, whatever. And Summer goes in the house, and then I go in the house later, whatever, not 3 minutes, but I walked in the house 30 minutes, an hour later, which is much more likely, because I think she's lying about a couple minutes. And I went downstairs, she wasn't there. I'm like, where the heck is she? Boys, where is she? I guess she's outside. Okay, I went and looked outside. That would have made sense to me, but it was the storytelling which did not ring true to me. So I think after they got home, a lot of more time passed than she's admitting to. And therefore something, and the way she's saying she's gone instantly tells me something else happened. The other thing that bothers me is Grandis herself, Candace's mother. She lost a daughter years ago, and not connected to this case, by the way. It's all people who connect is ridiculous. Her daughter, I think, was, she was killed by somebody. Okay, she was abducted and killed by somebody. Could have been her ex, I don't know who. Has nothing to do with this case. But this grandmother already lost one daughter, and now when her granddaughter went missing, she had nothing to say. She was the type that was going out originally and saying, we got a victims' rights type of thing, and we got missing children and all that kind of stuff, missing people. Her granddaughter goes missing and she doesn't do anything. This should have been right up her alley, but she shut the hell up. She never went. She finally did a little interview, but only to protect her daughter. That's the key. I think something happened to Summer, and it was the responsibility of her daughter, regardless of what happened. And she's protecting her daughter because she knows she's lost her granddaughter. She's just trying to save her daughter and her grandsons. That's why I go there. Not because I don't think the child could have run off into the woods. I do think so. Very, very possible. As a matter of fact, if you looked at my Dior, what's his last name, Kuntz, a lot of people are angry at me because I do believe he might have wandered into the woods, and they want to believe the parents killed him. I don't think so. I honestly think there's more likelihood that he actually did wander off. And so, I'm not stuck. But I appreciate that you have possible probable.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. The theory of her wandering into the woods, coupled with the way the family responded and the words they used, kind of knocked that theory to the side. I also now think that something happened to her within the family. I don't know if it was inside the house or outside.
Right.
I don't know what happened, but I think they covered it up somehow. I don't know where they put her. I just can't imagine. But so am I right in saying that getting lost in the woods theory, coupled with the way the family responded, meaning the mother's words,
right,
saying she's gone, that kind of knocks that theory to the side.
I don't find it as likely, as probable. It's possible. If I were a detective on this case, I would not throw that away. I would say, okay, we're going to keep that. I'm going to think it's 20%. I'm going to think the other is 80%. But I would still look. I would still be searching the living heck out of the woods to find out whether she just wandered off. Just because sometimes parents of missing children, one of the things we don't understand is that sometimes before things happen, they are who they are. You know what I mean? Like, for example, she could have not paid attention to Summer for a couple hours. You know what I mean? She could have been doing drugs for all I know. I don't know. And because she's already out of it and not paying attention, she's confused about certain things, and maybe she did wander off into the woods and nobody noticed for an hour and a half. You know what I mean? So that's possible. So that's why a good detective will always, keep possible, not probable, but possible on the table. Mm. So I don't think you're incorrect in thinking that's a possibility. I have a problem with the way the story has been relayed by Candace and Grandis. That just makes me think something more happened, that they know what happened to her. And then tried, could be anything from backing up a truck over her because she got in the way. It could be drugs.
I'm not seeing her.
Yeah, could be anything.
She looks like she was tiny, so maybe they have a big flatbed king cab and they backed over.
It's possible, and you think, oh, well, why didn't they call 911? Well, they're already in trouble with Child Protective Services. You know what I mean? They got lots of issues. I mean, if it were my grandchild, I'd be calling immediately. But I don't have a history with Child Protective Services.
I know people respond differently to stress.
Right.
I'm pretty calm, but when my children are involved, I'd be completely out of my head. The way I see some of these families responding, I just. Candace, the mother, did a live recently. I was listening to something else, I don't know what, but she's in front of the camera. She looked like she had a few too many, and she's just slurring her words and going on about stuff. Not one single word about Summer. Yeah. Not one word about
Right.
Oh God, where's my daughter? I can't take it anymore. I realize after months that kind of dies down, but that heartache,
Yeah.
he didn't even say a word about her.
Something is off. I mean, it's true that she has apparently some kind of a problem with drugs. So, and even if you don't, a lot of times after you've lost, a child goes missing, the doctors give you something and you're kind of out of it anyway. So you got to take that into account. But it's not
Yeah.
necessarily. But it's gone on for a long time, and there's a lot of strange behaviors, which is why people are curious to exactly what happened. I don't know if we're going to find out what happened because it's been a long time they haven't found Summer, so I don't know where she went to. But I can guarantee you, I did a show called The Cornbread Mafia, which is some ridiculous nonsense. One of the problems with a lot of these channels is they're pushing a lot of weird gossip things on weird theories and all that nonsense. And it's none of that stuff. I don't believe she was sold for drugs. I don't believe she was kidnapped by the Cornbread Mafia or that kind of nonsense. I don't believe anybody in the church tried to save her from her parents and kidnapped her. That's all ridiculous. But what happened to her, we don't know, and I don't know, where her body went to. So there we go. So
Well, Annie typed, her parents immediately went to the abduction theory. Who does that? That's something to think about,
Yeah.
because it's almost like saying, she's gone, people. Don't look for a body. In other words, don't go start digging around here looking for a body. She was abducted. Bye.
Right.
She's gone.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
that is a very good point, Annie, and a very good summation, Lisa. First of all, when you say somebody's been abducted right away, when your child has been abducted immediately, it takes away the responsibility from you for whatever you might have been doing. So, in other words, it's not my fault no matter what. So, she was abducted. But the problem is, if your child could have wandered off, you would want people to search the properties, because if she was abducted, she was most likely abducted, taken away, right, from the property. And they had like 9 or 10 dogs or something. None of them barked. So, I don't think anybody came down with a truck and took her away. But still, if somebody abducted her, chances are they'd be taking her from the property. And you don't. So why wouldn't you want, why would you want people only to look that direction and not on your property for her going missing right around the area? So yeah, it's suspicious. Let's put it that way. And this is what the detectives have to look at and say, okay, let's not ignore other possibilities, but this is kind of questionable. So yeah.
Two things, Pat. Number one, it was been pointed out there was violence in the home because Child Protective Services was called. She had filed, the mother Candace
Right.
had filed a protective order against the husband Don.
Right.
Blah blah blah. So maybe Summer got caught up in some of that physical violence.
Well,
And
Don wasn't home, as far as we know. So I mean, I don't think could be the case.
as far as we know, right?
Yeah, as far as we know. But the home was. I don't know if there was a video done by another channel. I forgot his name now. It's a detective, retired detective. He did a video of their home, and I've seen a lot in my life, and I'm not a clean neck, so but I'm like, holy God Almighty, this is a pretty horrific home life for these children, and it doesn't mean they can't get love. It doesn't mean they can't have fun. It doesn't mean they can't go to school and go to church as they did. But they were definitely, it wasn't the healthiest home life I've ever seen. Let's put it that way. So
this business of planting flowers, it doesn't seem to line up with having that. If she has a messy house,
well,
not messy, but if she has a filthy house.
well, this is outside. I
That's
mean,
something.
Grandis could have wanted to put a few flowers outside. I don't think that's impossible. I mean, people who have messed up conditions still do a lot of things that all of us do in normal life. Like for example, the child can have like completely, like a piles and piles of clothing they got from Goodwill, but it doesn't mean she can't dress up pretty for church. You know what I'm saying? That can happen. So it's like we can't just say because somebody has a different lifestyle, which is
Right. I have to take that cultural thing into consideration. And I don't really want to sound judgmental in this case, but sometimes you have to just call somebody out.
Well, this is what I try to do with this channel. Say this is for the police to do. You know what I mean? They're doing an investigation. They know what they're dealing with. I haven't been able to interview Candace or Don or any other Grandis. I haven't been able to do all those things. I haven't been able to analyze up close. I haven't been able to go to their location in Tennessee and see what the property is like and see if those dogs barked when I rolled in. I can't see that. So on my channel, one of the things I try not to do is that's why I don't do 20 shows on the case. And every single piece of information that comes in, let's delve into this piece of information. No, we don't need to. It's not our business. We don't need to do that. The purpose of my channel is to understand crime, to understand crime scene analysis, and leave the actual, generally speaking, the investigation to the detectives. I'm not saying that in my lifetime I haven't disagreed with what the detectives come up with. I've worked cases that I am very concerned about the results of. Okay, I did one recently on Cape Cod. That was one I did on Sunday, Cape Cod cases. There were cases of Krista Worthington and Linda Silva. Now, Krista Worthington to me is kind of like more obvious. Linda Silva, I worked on that case. I went up to Cape Cod and spent time interviewing lots of people, talking with the family, seeing what was going on. And to me, the case leaned heavily toward a drug issue and a shooting over a drug deal gone bad, somebody who's stolen drugs. That was very heavily in that direction. And then years went on, and they arrested a guy that supposedly was pissed off that Linda Silva had been a social worker who had suggested that their kids, that had his wife get the kids. And supposedly he just showed up in town that night and shot her because he was pissed off. And it went to trial, and the trial is like, there's no gun, there's no proof, and apparently his ex-girlfriend just basically said he had a gun, like the gun, and so he got convicted, and he's still in prison. And I think there's something fishy about that whole case, So it's not like I don't think sometimes things go amiss, but generally speaking, at least on YouTube, this is not the place for us to come constantly. Hundreds of videos, and this is what happened with Summer Wells. People are, ruminating about it, and they're discussing it, and every single new information that comes in, they're coming out to the Wells house and harassing them. They're going to the church and harassing them. They're taking YouTube into real life, and they're not detectives, so they have no business being there. They can have their opinions. Everybody does, and they can do their, it's interesting and all that. But it shouldn't be going into real life unless you've got a real absolute, if you've got real information, yeah, take it to the police, absolutely. But we're conflating, being here with being there, especially when these are not professionals. And so I seen on YouTube, I seen a whole lot of theories that are so out there. You're at least probable. I'd say a lot of people are so improbable, and I'm like, stop doing that, and yet they're going out there and accusing people and setting up lynch mobs to go after people who have nothing. They haven't done anything wrong, but because of YouTube, they've been inspired by certain grifter channels that keep doing shows day after day after day, inspiring people to do all of that. So yeah, but I think that was, I think you're right about probable versus possible, and probable is two of my favorite words. So I'm glad you brought those up because
I would like to just jump over to one more thing. First of all, I don't want to monopolize this entire
you can
session.
If somebody says they want to call, because I put that word out here. Wait a minute, hold on a second here. Let me just check here. Lisa says, the other Lisa, I don't think I have anything interesting to ask, but I look forward to calls from, I know who you're talking about, and Boxer Joe, when you have a call in at good UK time. That is a problem. Yeah. Okay. They have to be on level 5, because that's why I put level 5. If they join I'm not sure they're on level 5. They might be level 4. Because I'm trying to, add something to each level. But that'll be fun. But don't tell me you don't have something to add. Don't you? What brought you to be interested in criminal profiling? See, I want to know that. So tell me if you're willing to call in and let me ask you that. And so Annie too. If anybody wants to answer that question besides my one wonderful Lisa about, why you're interested in criminal profiling, do say, put your hand up, say, I'll call. And then what I'll do is I will then, go to the next call, and you can call in. Now that we know it works. Oh my God, it actually works.
Well, I could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Well, you're a very good conversationalist, and this has been, it's exciting to me because,
Well,
I said,
thank you so much. I
well, if you were terrible, I would have cut you off by now. You know what I mean? I would
Good.
have
And I
found
would
a way to
expect
dump
that
you.
because no one wants to be bored. They don't come to be bored. Well, I would like to ask about another case.
Sure.
I don't know if you've done it or not. Sabrina Eisenberg disappearance.
Oh my God. Yeah. I have I have that list, right? Oh my God. I can't show it to you because you're on my phone. But I have a list, and every time somebody brings up something that has a possibility, I throw it on my list, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Sabrina Eisenberg is on there. But
Oh,
I will
gosh,
tell you
it's
this.
so
I'm going to do it at some point, but I'll tell you this one thing. So I went on, I think it was Montel Williams, many, many years ago. And the Eisenbergs were there to talk about missing children. And I sat right next to them. And creepy. I got creeped out. There's something really weird. Oh my goodness. Kathleen is here. Wow. Yay, you came in.
Okay, Kathleen.
I always wonder what happened to that baby. I do want to do a show on that, but I'll just say, being next to them on that stage, I can't remember. I must have a DVD of that someplace, because those are back in the days when I, recorded everything, because I think I did that show in, good God almighty, 2004, 2005, somewhere way back. And every show I recorded on, so I'd have it. I have this huge case of all these shows I'll probably never ever see. but when I was sitting next to them, they just gave me the EBGBs. I just want to go home and take a shower. Let me put it that way. So obviously I have an issue with the Eisenbergs and what happened to their baby. Yeah. I have to look back at the case because I haven't looked at it in years, but it was very suspicious. I had a real issue with that. Also, do you remember little baby Lisa? Was that baby? A baby?
Another Lisa.
Was it baby Lisa? Yeah.
What was that family's name? I can't recall that.
Gosh. Wow. It's funny because that was huge news for so long, and then it's kind of gone downhill because it just went quiet because they never found baby Lisa. But yeah, that was another very, very suspicious one. In fact, the dogs actually, the cadaver dogs hid on her bedroom. So, so that was another one. And it's amazing how many little babies have disappeared out of people's houses. And so there's somebody like running around neighborhoods like going, I just want a baby. No. Unless, the times that babies do actually disappear are very rare, and they're usually those, the women that, claim they're pregnant to their boyfriends or husbands, and they're not, and then they steal a baby and come back home with it and go, look, it's mine. Usually out of the hospital, out of the park, and on rare occasions, they do befriend somebody and come to their home, like, to buy baby clothes and then kill the woman and chop the baby out of her, so pretty horrific. But generally speaking, when a baby disappears out of a home, it's very, I'm trying to think, can anybody come up with a case where a baby was stolen out of a home, not out of a hospital, and not out of the park, and not out of the stomach of the woman with a knife, but just out of the home? Can you remember one that was stolen out of a home and was not anything to do with the parents? Are we talking, what's his name? Going way, way back, like 60. The airplane. What am I thinking of? Charles Lindbergh.
Google that.
The Lindbergh baby. I think that was a real baby stolen out of a home, correct? I haven't looked at the Lindbergh case in years. Somebody told me I have to do that one. That's one
They say that the father engineered that.
Oh, well, there you go. Really? Okay, I'm going to have to look that up, Lisa, because I don't remember.
Look up Charles Lindbergh and his interests and his background. He had a lot of really non-mainstream, wild interests.
Interesting. Oh, I'm going to look for. I haven't looked into the case. I really haven't, but that might be a great historic case for me to do. So I think I'm gonna. I'm glad you brought that up. I think I'm gonna really look into that. But okay, so let's put Lindbergh over there because he might be guilty too. Does anybody know of another case in the last 20 or 30 years? Baby has been stolen out of the home, and it turned out they were kidnapped by a stranger. Does anybody remember one? I'm really trying to think.
Gosh, I'd have to Google it.
Well, this is an interesting thing. You would think we wouldn't have to Google it. You know, if it happened that so often that people stole people's babies, we'd think we'd know about it, wouldn't you think? And that's interesting. We don't seem to know that. So that's what I'm saying. It's usually when a baby disappears out of somebody's house, somebody in that house was the reason it disappeared. You know, and it's a sad thing, but, you know, generally speaking, people don't like babies, you know. Just the truth. It's like the concept of toddlers. When I tell people, you know, when a toddler goes missing, has been kidnapped, has truly been kidnapped, and they're like, oh, you know, that child's being kept someplace. I'm like, no, about 2 hours later, that child is dead because, you know, quite frankly, do you like toddlers? I don't like toddlers. I mean, you know, somebody else's toddler, not my granddaughter, somebody else's toddler, the whiny little creature, you got to change its diaper, it cries, it whines. You know, how long do you want to hang out with it? Now,
when you brought up all those points about when the very young ones are taken and all of these reasons why an abductor or a pedophile or whomever wouldn't want to keep them around,
no.
You know, I said, wow, that does make sense.
Yeah, they're dead within an hour or two because the purpose of kidnapping the child is to, sadly, rape and murder it. That's it.
Right.
The rape is the thing, but the murder is necessary. Also because maybe they enjoy doing that too. But generally speaking, they're dead. And when they're found alive, when people say, oh, but children who've been kidnapped have been found alive, I'm like, no, those were teenagers. Because teenagers, you can keep in a basement or, you know, your little whatever padded cell you make for them. And you can have sex with them over and over again. And they will try to get along with you. They will cook for you. They will clean for you. You know, they'll do all the different sex things you want them to do because they want to stay alive. So they will cooperate. They'll almost sometimes end up with, you know, okay, what am I thinking of? Okay, somebody come up with a syndrome.
Oh,
that one.
God.
The Patty Hearst one.
I can't even think of it. I go through that.
Okay,
too.
somebody come up with this because I'm just losing my mind here.
I
say it all the time, and now it's just gone out of my head.
The Hearst girl went through that.
Yeah, the Hearst.
The Hearst.
Come on, somebody.
I can't even think of her name.
Oh, this is Patty Hearst. It's Patty Hearst.
Stockholm.
Stockholm. Thank you. Gosh, for some reason I kept going shh. That's not right.
You knew it was an S.
Stockholm syndrome is that after a while you depend on your thank you. the other Lisa just came in with Stockholm.
Relationship.
Right. So everybody's Stockholming now. Yes, because after a while that person is the only person in your life. They're the ones that feed you. They're the ones that have a relationship with you, even if it's sexual. They're the ones. They own you. You know, they're your parent. They're your God. They're your husband. They're whatever you think they are. You know, and after a while, you know, you start connecting with them in a very weird way. So then, you know, that's where the Stockholm syndrome comes in. It's a survival technique. It's also just an emotional thing that just comes to play. So yeah, so you take a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, you can keep them in the basement. They're fun. 2-year-olds, not so much. It's like, oh, I gotta get rid of that kid. You know, they keep crying.
How about the only exception I can think of is Cleo in Australia, that little girl that was apparently found alive living with a guy who dressed as a woman or something.
Well, that is like, ow, I just realized that's not the glasses. Sometimes this thing is like, that is, I haven't figured out, this is a whole weird case, which I don't know that we know everything yet. It's just so strange. I can't put my finger on it. It's an anomaly. This wasn't a sexual predator, okay? So he didn't want to rape this child. So in theory, he wanted the child as a doll, a living doll, which is a completely different thing than a sexual predator. Okay, so that's why I didn't kill her. She actually seemed pretty happy when they came up, and she's like, "Hey," So they're like, "Why are you in such good shape?" Because she hadn't
Trying
been.
for the parents.
Yeah, she hadn't been assaulted. She hadn't been abused. She had been cared for and all that stuff. I don't still understand who was involved with this, how it all happened, how they found her. The whole thing is very weird, and they've been very
This
silent.
person was a friend of the family, or not a friend, an acquaintance. Maybe they had a block party.
They
and
claimed
that
originally
person
that there
showed
was
up.
no connection whatsoever. Has that changed?
That just seems. I understand what you're saying by
Yeah.
anomaly. Anomaly.
Yeah, it's like this guy just found them at a campsite and just spirited the child out and took her back and made her a living doll.
No.
I mean, there's
No.
just something
No.
weird about that, and I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I just don't quite get it. But definitely, what we can say, the guy was not a child sexual predator, which is why she was alive. So, once you get into child sexual predator, pretty much, yeah, those kids are
But
dead.
doesn't this child on the spectrum, if I remember correctly?
Cleo? Not that
Yeah.
I know of. Really? Oh, I don't know anything
I
about
have to
that.
look into that.
No, I don't know.
Maybe that's why she didn't cry for her parents. I mean, when a child gets lost or they don't see their parent for a few minutes, they're looking for their parent.
Right,
Especially
right.
that age. Weren't they she's 3 or 4 years old?
You'd think she would be a little more upset.
Yeah, I don't get that. It's like she knew this guy.
Yeah.
Like Uncle Somebody, and
something's-
we went over Uncle Somebody's.
Right. Something's bizarre about the case. I just,
The whole thing.
yeah, I don't know. It's very, very quiet. Nobody's ever talked since that happened, since she was found. Everybody's very happy. I mean, you want to be happy because, gosh, that's great. But how it happened, why it happened, it's all very, very murky, and I'm still curious myself. I'd like to know. And this is important. A lot of people forget this kind of thing, that one of the issues I have with when cases are solved and the truth isn't told about how they were solved, or if they got the wrong guy. Like, really pisses me off with the South Carolina case that I worked on, which is the Superbikes. I have that. That's one of my videos. Superbike. 4 people were murdered in a motorcycle shop, and they got Todd Colip is confessed to the crime. He's a serial killer who confessed to a mass murder, which I've never ever in history seen happen. In other words, serial killers don't commit mass murder. Never, never happened. But this guy supposedly did. Well, I know better because I worked that case. I was in South Carolina. I worked with the sheriff's department. I've seen all the evidence, and I don't believe it's for a minute Todd Colip. Everything he said about the case was wrong. He lied. His whole confession was incorrect. So I believe they made him a plea deal to, hey, if you plead to this case and accept the mass murder, we won't give you a death penalty on the people you actually killed. And he said, good deal, man. So they did that. And this bothers me not only so much that they got the wrong guy in there, and I believe the real guy's out there, and that, of course, it makes me look bad too, but pushing all that aside, the police, the detectives now, this goes down in history, right? Now the detectives believe that Todd Colip is a serial killer who committed a mass murder. You see what I'm saying? So now the training goes awry because now you believe something that isn't even true. So, yeah. So I think that's really interesting. So that's not okay. It's not okay. I want the police to understand cases for what they are so that they can then, in the future, do good analyzing. But if they're told a bunch of nonsense, somebody asked me to do the BTK case, Dennis Rader. And
right.
It's my, was it you?
Others too, I think.
Huh?
Others too.
Oh, okay. So I don't believe Dennis Rader is the original BTK.
Yeah, I got to find out about that. Give
Yeah.
me some more information.
Okay, I said I worked on that case. I went out to Wichita, and so I have experience with a particular suspect who actually his wife died on a camping trip they went on. His wife, they were separated, and he said let's go on a camping trip and and we talk things out, and then she ended up accidentally drowning in a river. Okay, and he wrapped her in some trash bags and put her in the trunk of his car. Anyway, he got away with that. But he is my number one suspect as BTK, and Dennis Rader, it's really suspicious how he was then connected to the BTK cases. I don't believe it. And the problem is not so much whether he's the right guy or not, just for the sake of history, right? Whatever. But that if the police believe he's the original BTK, then they're believing something that may not be true and analyzing him as a serial killer in a wrong way. And that bothers me because, I say you want everybody to have the best training possible and not to have cases that are just simply not true. Because if I'm trying to think of a case that clearly wasn't true later on, where you go, oh, well, we all thought this, but then it turned out to be that. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but
Trader has all these details about the crimes. They weren't in the newspapers.
Oh yeah, he was fed those. I knew all those. I knew all those details. They're the exact details I already knew. So
well, because we're in court, I guess he asked the judge if he could stand up and go through these cases.
Sure, he was every one of those details. Every one of those details I knew. He added absolutely nothing I didn't know. Why is that?
Is it because you're the criminal profiler you knew, or the general public knew?
It's because I believe that those details were fed to him, and that happened. I believe this happens more than you think. If they want him to testify and say I'll take the plea deal, they'll say okay, here's the basics, and he just gets up and says the basics. He's having a good laugh. I can say this is what happened and this is what happened, and
so
some of the things that he actually said too. There were a few things that I'm like, but the problem is, I'll have to explain it more thoroughly. That's why I said I have to go back through all my files and explain why I don't believe he's a serial killer. I don't have any problem with Dennis.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, he is a serial killer. Dennis Rader is a serial killer 100%. But the problem is that he began. I just don't believe he's the original guy. I think he's a copycat type guy. He copycatted later, but the thing that's very interesting is the way they put this whole thing together. I actually sent a letter to the DA, and you should see the response from her. It was very interesting because I caught her off guard. I said, I know this is not BTK. Didn't go well. So anyway, I have information that leads me to believe that this was the whole trial thing was very staged. They wanted to close the case. It had been bugging them for years and years and years, and now they got a guy.
So, are you saying that, in other words, original BTK either died or is in jail?
Oh no, no. The one I believe it is. I know where he is. Yeah, he worked for he had connections to those people. And I have a tape. I have an actual video. I have audio tape, and this is kind of funny. So I've got an audio tape, right, of him answering questions which are really, really concerning about the day that they died, right? And it's an audio tape, and I realize I don't have a tape recorder. I haven't had a tape recorder in years. I'm going to have to go to Amazon now and order a tape recorder so I can listen to the tape, so I can play it for you guys. Because I don't have a tape recorder. It's like, who owns one of those? So, but I have to I'm going to look through my stuff. I'm going to find my notes. I'm going to find my tape on this, because listening to this guy is really interesting. When you hear what he has to say about the time when the murder went down, yeah, it's very interesting. And remember, his wife also died mysteriously on a trip. And here's a little hint. The police, he was a suspect. He was a BTK suspect. Yes, and the police went to his home, and guess what they found under his bed?
A rape kit.
Plastic bags with different colored pubic hair of females.
What?
I'm not kidding you. That's actually police. That's actually in the police reports. This is the guy. The guy is very, very. He's a creepy dude, and the whole original crime went down. He was connected to those people. So, say the later crimes are completely different than the original crime. So, which are all connected to the same
no.
company. Yeah, it's
Okay, what I'm thinking about is this time frame. So original BTK, did it overlap Dennis Rader, or did original BTK stop at one point and Dennis Rader said, haha, I could do this
yeah.
too. I would
That
do
is a
this.
good. That's a good question, and honest to God, I don't remember because it's been years since I've worked on the case. I can't remember when I went to Kansas. Oh God, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So one of the problems I have is remembering, because I've worked so many cases, both actual real cases I've worked and so many commentary. I've done so much commentary. I'm like, did I do a television show on that? Oh, it sounds familiar. And then and my biggest laugh is always, I'm like, oh, I wonder what anybody thinks about this case. And I go on the internet, I type it in, and I start reading, oh, that person sounds pretty interesting. And then I find out it's me. And I'm like, oh, I did that interview. It's been, I did interviews over, more than a decade and a half, into 2 decades. So things come and go.
Maybe I misunderstood. So Dennis Rader did kill people.
Oh, yes. He's a serial killer.
This is the same guy who, I don't know, he put some sort of mask on and tied himself up and took pictures of himself.
He's
Barbie doll business, all of that.
He is a serial killer. There's no question. But the problem came down to he killed a woman. Here's what happened. I'll just give you the little short thing on this. He killed a woman after they took the death penalty out in Kansas. Okay. Then they put it back in, and he killed the woman after they put the death penalty back. So he's got one case, which is after the death penalty returned. So if he goes down for that case, he'll get the death penalty. So I believe what they did was they say, okay, they never ever got him on that case. I think they took that case off the books and said, if you confess to the rest of these, we'll let that one go. He came up with a deal. He got life in prison and some money for his wife. And he never got the death penalty on the case we absolutely know he did. So, yes, he's a serial killer, and yes, he killed the woman that was a death penalty case and didn't get charged for it. So, when you have a case that's been hanging around for as long as that BTK case had been hanging around, it's one of these things where the public keeps pressuring you and the journalists keep pressuring you. If you can close something down, sometimes they're not that concerned that they're closing it down accurately. And when this happened, I probably have some video of that too, because I was in Minnesota at the time. Let me try to think. From 2003 to 2007, I lived in Minnesota. I know I went to the television studio between 2003 and 2007, and I spoke clearly about this case. And I said back then, "This is bunk. He's a serial killer. He's not BTK." I didn't get well received on that. But I pointed out the issues with the trial. So I'm going to have to go look back and try to find those the things I did on that, because it's been a long time. But I wrote articles on it and other stuff. So I have all the information, but I just have to dredge it all back up again. But fascinating case. And
much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll get it together at some point. I don't know if I can get it together this week, but I'm going to try to go. I've got to say, it's just a lot of files. I've got a tremendous amount of files of the old days of paperwork, and then I've got things on hard drives and and on DVDs, and if they haven't warped in the trailer I've got them in. I got one of those big trailers, storage trailers, and the heat hits it, and I don't know, maybe all my DVDs are warped, but they're from way back when, and I just don't know whether I'd
like to make a suggestion.
Sure.
Okay. And this is just because I watch some different things on TV.
Right.
I like reality. Anyway, there are things called rapid fire rounds. Do you know what that is?
Not sure. I know what the term is, but I don't know how you're using it.
I'm talking about it in terms of discussion, interviews, things like that.
Right.
I know that, for example, when you cover a case, you donate a whole live
Correct.
to it. and we love that. Um, like many others, I will sit here and just actively listen and, say stuff out loud to myself, or
Right?
just, say stuff. Rapid fire round, it would be maybe like a short segment of, and you could ask within the Patreon chat
Okay.
if people would be interested in it. You could do it as one of the call-ins, or it could be set up on your own. What it is just questions about various things, meaning the cases, that would have short answers to them. For example, what comes to mind is the Boston Strangler. Was it, what was his name? So,
Yeah,
what the
Albert.
heck was his name?
Albert.
The
What did I say?
De Silva?
De Silva. De Silva. Yeah, that's it.
I can't even think of the
Right.
name sometimes. Was it him or not?
Right.
You would say yes, and maybe you can add a little blurb. It
Right.
would be, and then the next question would come up. It's not like under a time crunch or
Right.
anything. Just if you would want to donate 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because I
Right.
know that when people say stuff in the chat, over on Patreon, and you give the information to do the shows,
Right.
and then these things are discussed. For example, we've already done a lot of them over there, but people are still talking about certain ones.
Right.
So
So you're saying over at Patreon in the chat to say, you're saying do it at the Patreon? So just during a chat, like, let's say we say Boston Strangler, and then people just throw in questions. I throw in one answer to each one. Is that what you're saying over there?
it could be done in this setting, or it could be done in
Okay.
chat. However it's just an idea I had.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm trying to figure out. So a lot of this stuff is very experimental to me. So I
Yeah.
love your ideas because I'm trying to figure out what would work the best for people. The only thing I try to do is make sure that I don't end up doing what I see on television, which is what I used to deal with, which is get a panel full of people just attacking each other, and nobody learns anything because it's all about you're wrong, you're right, and you get one sentence. And what always frustrated me was that they'd ask me a question and I start to answer it, and I was interrupted. So the problem was, for example, let's say I'm talking about the serial killer in D.C. and New York just got arrested, right? And I start to explain. I was asked by CNBC to do the Shepard Smith show yesterday, and I turned them down. I said, no, because you're going to do a tape, you're going to ask me some questions, and you're going to edit me. And after I'm edited, I'm going to say something like, I think there's a serial killer. That'll be the end of it. I'm like, well, that's not what I was trying to say. So, yeah, this is what happens with TV. So I want to be able to, if I'm going to say one thing, I want to be able to
You want to be able to
explain
elaborate.
it. Right, because,
Right.
yeah, this is, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know this. So some people just want to be quickly entertained, and that's fine, But I am kind of more of a professor type. I like to teach. And so when I say something, then I try to explain it, because to me, the interesting part is the explanation. So when somebody says, for example, I'm going to put up I did one with Joe Salzone today. I'm going to put that up on the chat. And he said, "What do you want to talk about today?" I said, "I want to talk about that." And I kind of made a mistake. I left something out I wanted to say. That there are people calling this DC New York serial killer of homeless men a coward. And I'm like, why do they always call serial killers cowards or mass murderers cowards? It takes a lot of balls. I'll say that word before we demonetize. It takes a lot of balls to kill people, to actually plan to kill somebody, to get a weapon, to go after that person, to actually interact with them, killing them, and then worry about the police. I'm going to say, in your sick way, it takes a lot of courage. Stop calling these people cowards, because it's not true. You can call them losers. I'm good with losers. You're a cold-blooded psychopath and you're a loser. That I'm good with. But coward never seemed to fit right with me. So what would happen on television is they say, well, is he a coward? And I go, well, I don't think so. And then they cut me off. And then everybody would jump in and say, oh, he is a coward. And then I'd sit there going, and I can't explain myself. And it always frustrated me, because even if people don't agree with me, I think an explanation is useful. So let's say we're learning something about, I had a real long discussion today with my son. So we were discussing the Russia-Ukraine situation, and I don't do politics on this channel, so I won't get into it. But we were on the way to buy the microphone, right? We're in the parking lot in front of the music store. And my son has studied economics, and he studied history, and so he's very knowledgeable about everything that happened in the whole region of the world. But my question was why certain things are happening, how they're happening. And we sat in that car for the next hour before we went into the store to get the microphone, because I was so fascinated with what he had to tell me. Now, it didn't mean I had to believe everything. You know what I say? It wasn't that. It was that he was explaining all the different details. And then I could take that explanation and think about it and say, what does this mean? So for me, I just always want to make sure that it's not just, so people asking me questions is a great idea. I have to figure out under what circumstance.
Well, it was just an idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I like it. I just trying to figure out whether it would work on, I also have to tell you the truth, just to be, sometimes I don't know the answers. People ask me.
When they do these things, it's usually very, very light questions. It's like,
you think they're light, but
plain or pepperoni, Coke or Pepsi, or it's very light stuff. It's like a break the ice kind of thing. I'm sure other people in this chat right now know what I'm talking about.
Well, if they're simple questions, I have no problem with the simple ones. The tricky part is when somebody pops in and starts asking me a question that actually, like, for example, Albert DeSalvo. I have opinions on the whole case. Am I right? Is that his name? DeSalvo? DeSalvo. Yes, I looked into the Boston Strangler case, and one day I'll probably do a show on it. But if you actually ask me details right at the moment, I'm going to look like an idiot, because I can't remember everything I used to know. Because
Me too.
Yeah. Well, it's not that I've done so many cases that I can't remember the details. So it's not like I wrote the book on Cleopatra, but you could ask me certain things about Cleopatra right now. Somebody goes, so Pat, what exactly when did the Actium take place? Now, this is the skirmish they had, the War of Actium, take place between with I know I'm going to sit here going
yeah, you've had all these cases and all these details.
But I wrote a book. I wrote a book on Cleopatra. I went to Egypt. I studied naval history. I studied war techniques. I studied building of ships. I studied the Ptolemaic command. I studied all of this. But if you ask me off the top of my head, when was the Ptolemaic Canal built? I'm going to go, let me get back to you. It's in my book. I wrote it in the book because I did the research, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. And so then people start asking you questions about cases that, and this is actually one of these open forums where I might just say to you, I don't remember, because I don't. And I could
perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, then I'll go research it and figure it out at some point. What exactly happened. And then I can come back and do a whole show on it. But yeah, so it's tricky. So anybody's always willing. I'm always open to anything. People can ask me anything. So what kind of pizza do I like? New York and pizza in Naples. That's it. Other than that, everything's crap.
Deep pizza or thin crust?
Just good solid New York pizza and a good solid Naples pizza with that really big, that really good. Crust that they have. I can't even explain it, but I was in Naples and it was one of the best pizzas I ever had in my life, and I love New York pizza, but in Washington it's just something neat. So those questions I can answer, but when it comes down to
they're just probably light stuff, but like I said, it's a suggestion. If
Yeah.
it's not your cup of tea, if it's not
I'm
something
just
you
trying to
want to do
figure
on
out
your
where it
channel,
could.
it's fine.
No, that's fine. I just got to figure out where it could do it because in this instance, I can only talk to one person at a time. Yeah, the person has to call in. That's why when I love that, you've been a great conversation, so it's been fabulous. But what I put up on the call-in thing is, if you want to call in, you got to let me know because we can only do one call at a time. So if somebody says, hey, hand up, I want to call too, then I can say, okay, well, we got somebody who wants to call in and we'll move on to another person. But the problem is, it's not like we have, 5 different people can come in and ask questions one after the other because they each have to call in separately. So it's hard to do, and during the hangouts and things, people can ask me any question they want. And people can ask me any question they want right here.
I'm just about monopolized tonight, but if it was helpful, I'm
Oh,
glad.
you're fantastic at this. My whole thing about doing this is, I say everybody has the opportunity to say they want to call in, but they also just might enjoy listening to the conversation. And if that's what they want to do, that's
Right.
cool. I'm so glad, first of all, you had so many cool things to talk about and so, to ask about, and it's made a great conversation. So
Well,
I
thank
totally,
you.
you've been fantastic. Oh, you're welcome to call every week.
Well, I love talking and I love this subject, and I'm beginning to love you.
Aw.
I like you, but but I figured, let me be the first one. I'll break the ice. People might not feel comfortable. Maybe people have background noise, a big family.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe they don't have an opportunity. Maybe they're shy, whatever. So everybody has a voice, and some are pleasant and some aren't. And I just wanted to
Oh.
help out. I
Hey,
just wanted to help.
That's
I
fantastic.
had nothing to really talk about,
Yeah.
but you asked me questions and we
Yeah.
got it going.
This is the whole idea behind it because, I love doing the Hangouts too because that's when I bring in all the different, news stories and all that stuff. I'm talking specifically the stories I bring in, right? People can ask me things like send me a question on, what do you think about this or that? And I answer that during the show. But I thought, what would it be like just to have a fun, get together, bring your favorite drink, whatever it is, I get to hear your actual voices, get to know you. And I just thought it'd be fun. But I didn't know if I'd like it. But
Right. Do you get annoyed if people ask questions that are non-crime related? For
no,
example,
no,
okay, you like
I
it.
don't care. I'm one of these open book people. You can ask me literally
I'm pretty
anything.
much like that too, yeah.
Yeah,
Good,
I don't
good.
care. I have if I don't want to answer a question, I say I'm not going to answer that. I'm taking the
That's
fifth.
all. I prefer not to answer, which,
Right.
again,
But
perfectly acceptable.
but I'm
You call it
perfectly.
fun.
No, you can ask me. Literally, can ask me anything. I don't have an issue with that. I just it's like you and I are similar thinking there. It's like I'm 66. I had a fabulous life in all kinds of ways, and I don't have anything to hide.
I feel exactly the same.
Yeah. But if I don't want to answer something, I'm going to say I'm not going to answer that.
That's all.
I'm not shy about. This is something that's funny. I was reading a Dear Abby thing, and it always drives me nuts because people are like, well, I just read one said, so my friends are coming over and they're bringing their horrible grandchild with them. And the child is like 7 years old and has no respect for the home. And he likes to pick up things and try to break them. And he screams and yells and runs around. We don't know what to do with him. I'm like, you tell your friends, I'm sorry, we really want to see you, but I really personally, I'm not good with grandkids. I really don't want a kid in my house. I got a lot of precious things here. I want you to come along. Not saying I don't think your grandkid's nice. I don't want a kid in my house. Just say that. And and if your friends get all bent out of shape, oh, you won't let my grandkids come, then I don't want to come.
Okay.
See ya. I mean, there's
That's all.
things. Yeah, there's things that make people uncomfortable, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to say, I'm not comfortable with this. So I'm not going to participate in this, or I'm not going to have this person in my home, or, like somebody comes to my house and pulls out weed, they're leaving my house. I don't have weed in my house. I don't have drugs in my house. I don't do that. And so you just go do that. You go do that someplace else, but not in my house. I don't want it in my house. I don't have to sit here and say, well, I didn't know what to do because they sat on my sofa and pulled out their weed. And I'm like, they started smoking. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Just tell them, stop, get out of my house. Go smoke in your car, come back.
Right.
I don't understand it. I don't understand the problem with just, and if a person can't respect that, they need to go away. Wait a minute, I want to see what K-Rob says. Kathleen says, hold on a second. I think people are being phone shy like me. I have a question about Papini and Smollett. Do you think people like them can change and not be narcissistic or stop having Munchausen's? Oh, interesting question, actually. The answer to that is no. They already have a narcissistic personality disorder, likely psychopathy, both of them. They have no problem lying to everybody, manipulating everybody, doing whatever they want to anybody, and then lying about it some more. And now that they're both caught, they're still lying about it. You know what I mean? So no, they're psychopaths. In my opinion, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm going to say they represent psychopathy very well. They don't change. They change their methodologies, but they don't change that they are that. So it's like, both of these people need to have the book thrown at them. There's a lot of people they want to give them a break. There's now a free Jussie Smollett. I'm like, for God's sakes, he's an innocent guy. He didn't do it. He didn't whatever. I'm like, he's just as bad as Sherry Papini. And some people are wanting to free Sherry Papini because, she's just, she's a woman with emotional problems, blah, blah, blah. She just wanted to see her boyfriend and got out of hand. No, she's not. Both of them are psychopaths who abused the heck out of the public. Sherry Papini accused Hispanic women of attacking her and kidnapping her. And Jussie Smollett said there was some white supremacists who did this. Both of them abused the community, took a lot of cost a lot of money to the police, wasted police money. Real victims of crime got harmed by this. They deserve to go to prison, both of them. I thought Jussie Smollett got too lenient thing. He got a misdemeanor. I mean, it's under a year. It's like 6 months or something. He needs to go to prison for at least 2 to 3 to 4 years, and so does Sherry Papini. But people keep downplaying it. It just drives me crazy. Well, that's funny. This whole Smollett family seems to be like them. Well, they might be, and the Papini family is now backing her. Go figure. Because originally they said that she was a problem, and now suddenly it's like, she didn't do anything. It's like, so very, very frustrating. But thank you, Annie. That's very nice of you. Great show. Great. Well, okay, so I'm going to probably wrap this up now because it's getting late. So Lisa, thank you so much for being my wonderful guest. People have asked me to do guests.
Very welcome.
No, they've asked me to do guest show. Have guests on the show, and I'm not usually. I've never done. I've never been a host of a show. I've never been an interviewer. So I'm usually the interviewee, right? Not the interviewer.
Yeah.
So this is not in my wheelhouse or my comfort level. But you're literally my first guest.
I'm so happy. I feel very honored, and I appreciate your time, and I was so happy to help.
This is so great. I mean, first of all, you were a great guest. You had great things to say. This is exactly what I want the show to do. It's so much fun, and I can't believe that the electronics are working. I'm shocked, and my internet didn't die.
All that time, preparation, and effort, and money. It was well worth it.
Okay, I feel better now because I'm like, really? What I took to my son, and I'm like, I don't know. I bought all this equipment. Nothing ever works. The internet's dying on me, and now I'm probably going to do a show, and it'll just be like, so this is cool.
How about if we hang up and you could take a few minutes to, wrap your stuff up if you want to end the show. It's up to you.
Okay, well, I will do that. So, look. Thanks to both of you. That's so nice. See, you're a great guest. Thank you, Pat and Lisa. See, didn't know you were famous, did you? You made the show great, so I appreciate that. So yes, let's hang up and then I'll just end the show. So thank you, Lisa, for saving me. You are the first one here. You've been a great guest and you made a great show. Yay! Thank you for calling in, and call back next time because we'll be back in 2 weeks.
On the phone.
What?
I said, anyone thinking of calling Pat on her call-in shows, please do so.
Yes,
She's
thank you.
wonderful and fun. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you so much. This was absolutely great. So I will see you hopefully in 2 weeks, because I will be back now that I know how to actually set this thing up. And I will try to do I'll see how many people. I don't think we have anybody from UK at level 5, but if we do, then I try to mix the shows up so that UK people can come in and
Yeah.
because it kind of sucks for them when they're like us, always asleep at the time I do the show. That's why Thursday hangout it'll be 4 p.m. but for England it's only going to be 8 p.m. So it's an early one for them. So yeah, and I got lots of cool things to talk about. So this is great. So thank you very much, Lisa, for calling me. It was wonderful.
You're very welcome.
All right, great guest. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was so cool. Lisa really saved my butt, because she showed up and I'm like, oh, somebody saw my note, because my note came in. I only put that up, the message to Patreon like an hour before the show, hour and a half. I'm like, I'm just going to do this to see if it even works. So I'm glad I did. So anyway, if you're here later watching the show and you say, I want to call in too, you can click below on Patreon, and you can join Patreon. That supports the show. We have this call-in is going to be once every 2 weeks. And thank you very much. So much fun. I'm glad. Whole different setup here. So if you're new to Patreon, for level 3, you can join in the 6 live show a month. Be in the chat room, where we have a great chat room now with nice people in it. And then I have hangouts every week where I talk about the news and other things going on, and there's a chat room there. And now we have 2 times a month, we're going to have call-ins where I get to hear your little voices, real people. It's fantastic. So anyway, I'm so glad this is that you all. Some people actually showed up here tonight with that very, very, very recent message. Help, please come. So this was fun, and I guess it worked. So now I'm going to have to watch the video and see how well it came out, because I've never used this microphone. I've never used these headphones. I've never used this thing that makes a radio studio. So all new for me. So anyway, thank you all for being here. You were absolutely fantastic, and so we'll do this again in 2 weeks, now that I know that it works. And I'll see anybody who's here, obviously can come to the hangout too. That'll be this Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I do hope I see you there. So lots of interesting things to talk about this week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, thank you again. You were all awesome to be here. And thank you again, Lisa, for being my guest on the show for the first time. All right. Bye, everybody.